honored to have you here, Pavel, for bluzelle. And so at Unify, we're going to have people of different backgrounds. Some of technical expertise, and the technical expertise would vary. So my question is, in your words, what problem does bluzelle solve?
The biggest thing is that we have a massive data storage problem globally. So what that means is all our apps, all our products are consuming way more data, producing more data than we've ever seen before. And the current internet, it just doesn't have the infrastructure to handle that. That's where you're getting, these data breaches that are happening from companies like Uber, Equifax, on and on. No privacy control. So, let's say Facebook and the whole Cambridge Analytics problem. You're having data clogs. The internet is starting to, slow down or is not reliable. If centralized systems are causing it to, certain servers to go down, then you don't have access to your data. So those core areas it's just going to expand more and more because over the next 2 years, they're expecting more people to come online, average of 6 devices for every connected person. So to manage that, we need a better way to store and manage that data. And that's the problem we're solving is through a decentralized database.
Got you. That's excellent. And so as I understand it, as you're working with banks and in Singapore, for instance, I understand that you've come across like the use of a decentralized database. And so I'm just curious, so why has it taken so long to find a need for one? And, why Blue? So how come this problem is just being discovered now?
Yeah, it's interesting because the funny thing is about October 2016, my CTO actually said to me, hey, he said, it's a really good application of blockchain. And I said, well, yeah, what? He goes, building a brand new database protocol. And I was like, it's kind of early. At that time, we're selling enterprise projects to banks and insurers, and the whole thing was enterprise blockchain. And I said, these guys don't even, it's hard enough selling them the application or what we want to do as is, or just creating something on Ethereum for them. They're not going to understand a database. So fast forward like 6 months later, we're in the middle of finishing a project off. And one of the core things of the bank project was that we had to store their data on a database somewhere. We built them a decentralized app. Database wasn't there. And so basically we took, Microsoft Azure, blockchainified it so it could support our, and my CTO said, remember that product I said about a decentralized database? And I was like, yeah, he said, that would have been really helpful here. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we needed to solve our own pain point. And then we started looking around everywhere, like who's doing what, how is it being handled, looking at the space more generally, like knowing not just for the like a blockchain app needing a decentralized database, but overall what you started with. What's the bigger problem at stake? Is just everything around data management. And that's when we realized that blockchain can actually solve these things. And it's just one of those areas that we felt that we discovered was people were focusing on file storage. They're focusing on computer processing like Golem. You had new blockchain platforms coming out like Zilliqa, WanChain, everything, Icon, but no one was really taking care of that database side or really grabbing it by the bull by the horns. And that's when we said, okay, let's go do that.
So I was going through the white paper and I was looking at the release of Lovelace. Like I went on the official website and the website said that it would be out in December, but I believe the beta has been released in April. Can you just explain the current status? I guess is there like a website update that's going to happen and just where we are in the roadmap right now?
Yeah, so the main thing is we kind of changed the nomenclature of some of the stuff. So in the one that was out in December was able to show that, hey, you can get, if you had a token, you can read from the database and you could essentially use it. Then what we did was April was, just kind of was able to simulate it. And the main thing is we just renamed some of the stuff. So the end of June is the real official Lovelace, which will be the one on the test net. It'll be a single swarm database. Key value pair. You will be able to create, read, update, delete in a setting, and it'll be integrated with Ethereum and Neo. And actually non-blockchain apps. We're building APIs so that even if you're not building on the blockchain, like Neo or Ethereum, but let's say I've got a mobile game out there and I want to use a decentralized database, they'll be able to plug in and use ours in a test environment. we just kind of redefined the names of it as you know, the space, right? Yeah, you name a certain thing and you're doing, but we're still hitting our targets. That it was always managed that June would be the test net, almost like the MVP, and the website will be updated in the next couple of weeks with that.
The recent hackathon in, like, I believe it was April 28th in Vancouver. That was an important time to kind of, test how early adopters would react to bluzelle. Does it show that Bluzelle's product can be easily integrated with decentralized apps?
Yeah. So what was really good about that was essentially it was Lovelace the one that we're pushing out now. We were able to get most of it done for end of April to have that hackathon. So that way they got Lovelace in a private setting and we can see firsthand what was the feedback from developers, how were they using it, what could they do with it, and then tweak what we needed for the public release at the end of June. So what we saw was people were doing stuff with some location data that we got from physical. They were building things, potential stuff that could be worked in the video game world. Like if you're playing a game of Legend of Zelda or Mario Brothers, how it can use. People did some really creative applications with it, and it was all done over a weekend. We showed them how you download the kit, get everything set up, run it, connect, and start using it. And they were doing it over that 2-day stretch.
When is roughly when can we expect like a main network release?
According to our roadmap, we're looking at probably 6 to 12 months. If we get things faster, then it'll be ready. But as far as how testnet versions, they can be there easily as other projects, 6 to 12 months, hopefully, because you just want to get it really thorough before people can really start knowing that, hey, the data I'm putting here is permanent, or I don't need anything else for it, just this one database.
Given that EOS is another smart contract platform and it's launching June 1st, how would that kind of work with bluzelle, or influence it or compete with it? Because I believe that EOS in some ways competes with Ethereum. So what are some smart contract platforms that bluzelle plans to secure? And what are some ones that would make it, I guess, more difficult to work with? What smart contract platforms that'll be harder to work with?
How bluzelle is designed is to be the de facto database for all smart contract platforms or blockchains. So Ethereum was obviously first one out of the gate that we want to integrate with. It's most widely adopted, used. Neo, because we have a strategic partnership and investment from them. They were part of our ICO. So obviously we're going to integrate with Neo, and they've got a big following in Asia. We're also working with Zilliqa right now. So EOS would be just another one that we'd like to reach out to and say, hey, we want to be the database layer for you. And then there's several other blockchain platforms that we're in talks with right now. So for us, it's great that these different blockchain platforms are coming. They're finding different niches that they can go to, different ways they can work. And then our goal is to be flexible enough that we just plug in. So when their users, let's just say the person building on Zilliqa says, oh, I need a database. Zilliqa's like, that's okay. Bluzelle's already integrated in. You can just use that.
Yeah, you went in depth on one of your talks on how you're integrating with 0x. And so, yeah, so how, again, like just how have the decentralized apps on 0x like responded to bluzelle when they actually used Bluzelle's solution?
So we've got, like 0x is an example of how it would go. The relayers would use the order books. And we've got, I think, like 15 to 20 other use cases being built right now, working with our dev team. And so the goal is when Lovelace comes out end of June, we'll have a number of use cases that we can publish out there and saying, here's how this dApp working on a Neo or Ethereum use bluzelle, here's their results, and so forth.
One more question, or actually two more. It's kind of a hard question, but how many dApps would you say are roughly on the Ethereum blockchain right now that could, like right now today, integrate with Bluzelle's solution?
That is hard to gauge because, you don't know the quality of a dApps. It could be just a single person, just built a little smart contract for themselves. So what I really go on is companies that our developer, our director of developer relations, Nitin, is working with, people who have reached out, who we see, hey, they've got a compelling product right now, and they just want to get more involved early. So we've got about over 30 companies around there that he's engaged with every day, and he's saying, hey, here's Lovelace coming out, here's how you can use it. Like I said, once it really comes out and now we can see the real funnel of converting people from, hey, I want to learn about this, to using it. And so who knows, that it's limitless what that potential is, especially once it opens up to that the Neo community and Ethereum community.
It's amazing. And so swarming and sharding are two very important ideas with bluzelle. So can you just explain the two ideas of swarming and sharding and any other important ideas that come of bluzelle's solution?
Mm-hmm. So easy way is, let's start with sharding, right? Easiest way is that you're taking the data, all the data, instead of replicating the entire data set on every computer or every node, you're breaking them into little pieces. So that allows for better security and speed and access. So the example we like to give is, let's just take an email list, data around there, put it on a plate. Let's replicate that plate, let's say 100 times. Then take all those plates and just smash them to the ground. So now you've got thousands of little pieces. We take all those pieces and scatter them across all the nodes or vaults that are connected to the bluzelle network. That's what sharding is. So when somebody needs to retrieve that data, they need to know the keys. They're the only people who have the private keys to access it. It grabs it and it puts the entire puzzle back together. They can do what they want to do. So that's a good way to explain that. Swarming is really about, so if we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, they require universal consensus. So every node on the network needs to come to agreement. What that leads to is the slowdowns in transactions and verifications that we're getting now. Mm-hmm. Swarming is a technique that's even Ethereum was going to start using, and others, is instead of having universal consensus, let's recognize that there's galaxies out there that make up the universe. And so all we need to do is have consensus within a galaxy that is confirmed, everybody agrees, and saying that way we don't need the universe, so we can get much faster processing times than that. So that's our two ways to explain sharding and swarming.
As we also know, bluzelle has two tokens. So the bluzelle, the BLZ, that's the one on the market, and then there's the internal bluzelle token. So can you just explain the utility of these, or why we have these two tokens, and will these two tokens still be needed in the future as Ethereum and blockchain will just change as time goes on?
The need for the two tokens is really for product and efficiency. Let's just say we started with our own internal token. Then that means we had to be our own blockchain. We had to create our own BLZ wallet, and there's a lot of friction to that. It's actually easier to build an ERC20 token on Ethereum because everybody already has the wallets, understands how they work, and it's free movement. So it's really lower friction and better usability. So it's a fundraising mechanism. Now, when they want to use a product, the problem is if it was BLZ and it was an ERC20, every time, let's say, Nata, you had your own data that you're storing on our database, every time you want to, let's say, change it or use the product lead, you had to wait for consensus on the Ethereum network to come which might take long. Now, if you're a developer, you're not going to sit there and wait potentially 30 seconds to 2 minutes for a verification just on your data. There's no point of a decentralized system then, because speed matters a lot. So what we're saying is BLZ that's how the funding was. That's how people can use it, freely trade them. Once Nata, you want to go use, let's say, go onto the bluzelle network and use the database, they'll swap 1-for-1 to our internal token. And because then it's our own internal blockchain, the speed and processing is totally super efficient, and you can do what you want to do on the network. If you want to exit the network and say, hey, I want to take some of the money I earned or I have left over, B&T 1-for-1 goes to the BLZ that we're holding for you, and now you can go do what you want outside of the network with it. So it's really about throughput, efficiency.
And I believe, if I read in a white paper, I think that the price wouldn't be 100% deterministic, that I guess the price and the charge of it would be something that would be determined as the product is developed, on the price of the actual to use the service.
Yeah. So, one other thing is, so when you're saying, I'll go back to said, in the future, what could we see? Eventually, as things evolve, we'd love to go to a single token, right, and make it more, and then basically everybody just goes on that. So, we'll go eventually. Hopefully, we'll get there. Now, back to your question about price. So, the question that usually comes up is, wait, if all of a sudden BLZ costs more, then isn't the use of the product going to cost more? Because all of a sudden it went from, let's say, from $1 to $2 to $5. Well, now the network costs are that much. No, because what we would do is have a price that's pretty much fixed on US dollars. So the service could be, I'm just making up numbers. Let's just say it was costing you $15 a month. Well, then you're paying the equivalent of $15 a month in BLZ, not, oh, the price has gone up because BLZ is more expensive.
Got you. Thank you for that explanation. That helps clear things up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take it that I think a small percent of that token goes to bluzelle and Ethereum. Is that correct? Or
no, the small, so on the network, the fee is the customer pays, let's say in BLZ, or once they go onto the network, it's BNT. A small percentage goes to us as a network fee, but the majority goes to the company that was allowing for the storage of the data. So let's say, let's say you had your nodes on there and you're storing, but your hardware was being used for storage of data. You're going to get the majority of that fee.
I take it so that like as the economy grows, more demand, more tokens would be staked on a network, so the value would go up as a result of more traffic, more demand for
That's
the
correct.
product. Got you. Given that like the potential that bluzelle has, why do you think that bluzelle token is undervalued?
I don't like to say anything about token on undervalue, overvalue, because then it leads to whatever. But what I do believe is, will talk about is why I think in the long run that we will be powerful is it's a space that no one has really taken control of, and it's a valuable space. So if you look at the current internet, the companies that are doing very well in it are Oracle, IBM, AWS for providing database services. So all this needs to be recreated in the blockchain world or a decentralized internet. So what we're doing is filling a major hole and a major gap in building this new vision that everybody has. So with that, for the long run, will be powerful because one, a huge market and space that needs to be done. We have a highly technical team that we've put together. We just hired 2 people that we'll announce in the next week who work for some of the biggest database companies in the world and built their open source community. They're coming on. We also have top advisors like Prashant Malik, who designed Cassandra, which was a distributed database, and he was one of the early engineers at Facebook. He's joined us to execute on this new vision that he sees that it should be decentralized. You have Alex Leverington, who was one of the core developers of Ethereum from day one, right from the beginning. So he understands this whole entire decentralized outlook they have. And Brian Fox, who's the CTO of Orchid, which is a huge VPN mesh network, and he was a creator of GNU Bash, which is used on all Apple devices or Mac OSs. So I think given why in the long term will be really successful and people should be excited is big market, highly technical team, and we have a proven history of building products around blockchain.
Actually, that's amazing. I just want to really thank you for coming on this call. It's a privilege to have you on this call.
Well, thanks, Natu, for doing this. Love what unifii is doing and building out your own, ecosystem to educate people. And we need more people coming into the space and understanding it from a technical level and a crypto level, so they can, be long-term believers and supporters.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. Thank you.